for being here on this gorgeous morning. My name is Judith Stein, and I'm a member of the Alumni Board of Governors. I am the college class of 1962, and then a master's from Chicago also in 64. But it's the class of 62 and all the college classes that we're going to be talking about today. So if you're here for reunions, you're in the right place, and let's go forward on the panel today. Well, actually, I'll just talk a bit about myself. We'll go around and everyone will introduce herself, and then we'll take it from there. I'm moving toward my 50th reunion, and I have to say I'm really excited about it. I have been asked to chair that reunion. I have been working on reunions since 1977, and the reason not earlier is that we were never asked to have a reunion before then. Reunions for us didn't start until our 15th reunion, and that was 77. I was on the committee back then, and then eventually morphed into the chair of the committee. My experiences have been fabulous, always connected with reunions, so I have nothing but the highest praise. That doesn't mean everything always went smoothly, but it was always a wonderful experience, and we're going to be talking about that today. So why don't we start to my left?
Oh, goodness, okay. I'm Lauren Henry. I got my bachelor's from Chicago in 2005, so I just finished serving on our 5th reunion committee. I'm also the Alumni Club president in Philadelphia, so I bring to the panel sort of experience not being local when you're planning your reunion, which sometimes is hard. Is that everything I'm supposed to say? Is that good?
I'll tell you, would you add, what was the best thing, or something special about chairing your reunion last year?
I didn't chair.
Oh, you didn't chair.
Deb was the chair.
Okay, sorry.
I love Chicago. I mean, I love the school. I met my husband here. It's great. And so for me, it was just a chance to be a part of that and to kind of come back and see where everyone is and see what was happening, and to really kind of find a way to get involved in Philadelphia in a different way, which I think was something that I really appreciated, was to be able to say it gave me that niche to get involved in Philadelphia.
I'm Susan Friedman. I got my bachelor's in 75 and a master's in 76, and I started off volunteering for the university through the development office because there was no local alumni club when I graduated. And then fortunately, after a few years, one did begin, and I served on the board of that and for about 10 or 12 years. I have been working on reunion committees since 1980, which was my 5th. It was very tiny, but we have improved over the years, and this past year was our 35th reunion. So, I've been doing, I guess, 7 times now. and
there's more to come.
There's hopefully more to come. Our 25th was amazing. We had a huge turnout. This was back when the class dinners and things were on Saturdays, and we had a tent on the quads, and we had to bring in more tables. So that was probably the high point for our class. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Ayub, and I was on my 5th committee, reunion committee with Lauren. We just came off our 5th reunion, and I think we did a really good job. We were very happy with the turnout, and we had a very good participation rate. I've been doing reunions since I graduated. I was on the committee for my 1st year, and we had so much fun. We decided to come back 2nd year, and a few years after that, we were very happy when the school started forming the class councils, and we were one of the first classes to get on board with the class council. So I was very happy to come back and chair the 5th reunion, and I'm looking forward to the future ones. And I think one of the memorable moments that I have from reunion was from planning this. I had a really fun time just getting in touch with all the members. And like Lauren, I'm not local, and even worse so, I'm currently in Gainesville, but before that I was in São Paulo. There aren't that many alumni, so it's not even like I can have a regional club to participate in. So I was very happy to be able to volunteer with the reunions. And we had some guests at our reunion this year, and right before we got together in front of the bean and we took a committee picture and we gave those to our guests in a picture frame, and I think that was probably my most memorable moment from this year.
Great, thank you. We all will have lots of stories, of course, but we're going to focus on really strengths and weaknesses and ideas and advice, and give you lots of time for questions, because I'm sure you'll have them. Informing the committee, and we'll have very different experiences, I'm sure, because your classes, the young classes, are so large, ours are so small, and yours is probably medium size. Just sort of quickly, how did you begin to reach out to your classmates to get them on board?
I would say Deb.
Deb?
Yeah, actually, we started with getting in touch with everyone who was on the first year reunion committee. We also reached out to the class council from last year, but we sent out a few emails to the class in those blasts, and asking for anybody who wanted to be involved to get in touch with us. And we put it out in the magazine as well, in our class news. And I think that works very well. We did it again just now for class council, and we've been getting a very good feedback. We're getting a lot of people who want to join. So I think that works. Everyone reads the magazine, and we all look at what our class is doing, and then right at the bottom is like, join your reunion committee. So I think that worked.
Yeah, and I also, one thing that I did from the Philadelphia side of things was to rapidly identify the number of people in Philadelphia who were from the class of 2005. And starting in August or September with like Phoenix Fest, every time there was a Chicago event in the area, I emailed them and would say, hi, it's me again. Did you know that it's the start of our 5th reunion year? Come to Phoenix Fest. Let's make sure that we're, and so that there were those engagement touch points throughout the year, kind of reminding, starting in August, hey, guess what June is going to be, and kind of going from there.
Our class, I think, was probably assembled more from Alumni House. That, I wasn't the chair, so I wasn't in on the very ground floor of it, but it seemed like there was kind of a mass email to some of the likely suspects as well as some new people. And, from that, we developed our committee. I don't know to what extent there was a lot of outreach beyond that. I know I had tried talking to a couple of my classmates, and it didn't work out.
So this is interesting because yours was a little more staff generated.
From what I can tell,
okay.
it seemed to be that I received an email saying we're getting ready to start planning. Would you like to be on the committee?
And that's an interest, and I think you're going to see that difference not only between the different decades, because I think that was probably true of some of the older decades, but I think you'll also see it with some of the younger ones too, because some classes just automatically go after it, and others wait for the staff to say, oh, by the way, it's time for your reunion. I know in my case, I have a little cohort, and it didn't start out that way. I mean, we were all part of the original outreach. The staff got in touch with the people. They picked a chair, and they said, now, who pick some people for the committee, because again, this was a new thing. And the bottom line was that we kind of liked it. We got along, and from that point on, we just started moving the process ourselves. And as you mentioned, Deb, the class column, I've been the chair for a while, but I also am the co-correspondent for our class column since the class column thing started. And we start reminders to people at least 2 years out saying, hey, put it on your calendar. So, and that really helps a lot. Did you have any problems with people who wanted to be on the committee and felt they were sort of kept out, or I mean, there were no issues like that? Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. Now, did you have, what about people who wanted to be on the committee, were on the committee, and then didn't feel, because of distance or whatever, they just couldn't participate as fully as they'd like. Was that ever a problem?
I think we had people all over the place. I think we even had someone in Italy. And I, on my first committee, I was in Brazil. I think Italy is a little bit harder because of the time difference. But what we tried to do, and I don't know how effective we were, Lauren, you can tell us that. But as far as everything that we were planning, and I was programming chair, and so I did a lot of the planning. I tried to send out emails to the committee and say, okay, these are the things we're looking at. What do you guys think? And I got, of course, there were the ones that responded to every single email, and some people didn't respond at all. But I feel like at least if you wanted to be active, you could. We tried to keep everyone engaged in everything that we were planning. And just kind of going back a second, the staff is really helpful. So when I say that we sent out emails, we get these template emails from Stephanie, who was our class liaison, but and we just change a few things around, and then they send it out on our behalf. So it comes with our names, but really they're the ones doing all the work. So I just want to say that they're incredibly helpful, and without them, we probably wouldn't be able to do half of the things we do.
Yeah, but no, Deb, that was really, I mean, that was something that Deb did a lot. That was very effective. Like, you know, I know last year after caucus they did site visits. Well, obviously, like, a lot of people didn't get to go on site visits, but she still would say, we saw 3 or 4 places. And even though it was kind of clear which ones they liked, it was at the same time like you felt like you had a chance to weigh in. Or, these are our menu options. Do you want to weigh in? So I'm sure not everyone did. I tried. But I think that really kind of gave the opportunity for people to be engaged, even if they weren't
so they had
local.
a sense of participating,
Exactly.
even if they, how about your?
Well, you know, our group was mixed. We had our committee chair being out of town, and our gift chair was in town. We had other members who were out of town, so a lot of our communication was done either by email as well as our conference calls, which were roughly every month, which, you know, Jamie was kind enough to arrange for us. And I think generally it worked out pretty well because people could participate as much or as little as they wanted to. As a matter of fact, one of the people from out of town actually came in and looked at the rooms. There were options for us, as opposed to some of us local people. So it partially just depends on who you're working with and how willing they are to travel to participate in something. Maybe she offered to come in and do that. I don't know, but I think that to the extent people wanted to participate, they had plenty of opportunities to do it and generally took advantage of it.
How large were your committees?
Our committee was very big. I think we had about 40 names on the list. We had 20 pretty active members, which is still very big.
Yeah, I would say ours was probably more in the 15 to 20-ish range, with 10 to 15 being more active, and some people kind of dropping in periodically.
Oh,
I was we were the same. Yeah.
Right.
We probably had, we've been shooting for about 25 to 30 people technically on the committee. Now, in fact, older class, I definitely have some classmates who don't use email. And that was real tough. You know, back in the day, it didn't matter because email didn't exist. But truthfully now, it's really difficult to keep someone on the committee who doesn't use email. But we tried to find a way. And if they didn't have answering machines, that made it also very difficult. And there are some, and when they're out of town, that's really tough. So trying to keep them engaged, but what we wanted to do was keep them on our stationery, so that we would indicate how many people, because there's no question that the more people your classmates see on the stationery, the more chance they'll recognize a name, because they don't want to come back to strangers. Even if you don't remember 99% of the people, you might remember their names, and a familiar name will do it. We probably had an active group of about 12, and that was about it. And that was fine. Mostly local, because we actually well, when we were choosing the food, I arranged for tastings so that we were able to do tastings, and that was super cool. And then we had as many people as were available who wanted to come see the places on campus. Truthfully, I know the campus really well because I only live a few blocks away, and I'm over here a lot. So I probably know every building, and I also know all the little secret spots, and I also know what's going up and when it's going to be finished. So we were able, before the Gordon Center was completed, I booked the Gordon Center, but I also got some classmates to come along, and they were convinced that that was a good choice. So we were the first class ever to be booked for it, though there were others that got in before we, but we were the first actually to sign the papers to say we want this. We're also booked for the Logan Center for 2012. And so there is an advantage to having local. And for those of you who are interested in Mansueto, they're not offering the possibility because I already checked on that. But it's pretty cool. I think, and I just have to throw this out, and we'll talk about it later. But the younger classes have their dinners off campus, and I find that personally upsetting. And I wonder if you have any reaction to that. I mean, of having it off campus.
Sure. Do you want to? I'm kind of. I would like to have it on campus. That's just. I mean, I think there's a different attachment. And we had a Friday night dinner, and a lot of people are local, and so there's the transportation thing. I think that is an issue. That do you want people to come, or do you want people not to come because it's harder to get to Hyde Park? So I know. But from a personal reunion committee perspective, I can feel that when I put on my alumni relations hat, because I also work in alumni relations. I can see the logic of trying to get the attendance. But I don't know, because Deb, you were more involved in the decision. So
I'm actually on the opposite end of that. I think it's because, and you were saying how before the class dinners used to be on Saturday, but now we have the go party on Saturday, and that's on campus. And I like that the Friday night class dinners are downtown. And then we're on campus all day Saturday. There's a ton of events. I'm here from the morning. I come for convocation every year. And so I like that Saturday is my on-campus day, while Friday is more of a downtown day.
I hadn't thought of that, because you have the chance.
I just want to add to that for these younger folks, we have had such a push in the college to get them out into the city and become members, kind of community members of the whole city and not just Hyde Park, that I think it's natural that they also think of the whole city as their venue instead of just Hyde Park.
I'd love to. I understand that, and I understand all the pieces of that, but I would argue that the college experience is still the college experience, and not to celebrate your class reunion on campus somehow takes away from that. And you can always party later. And I truly wonder how many, and it's an honest question, I don't know the answer, how many of the younger classes who party downtown on Friday actually come back as you do for convocation. I'll tell you, they don't.
I'm pretty sure that. My friend and I do it every year, and I think we're the only ones.
Yeah. So the likelihood of bringing them to campus is really not that big. And the Go Party, frankly, works for probably the first two classes. And after that, the Go Party really doesn't suit the older classes or even the middle year classes. And I've been going to the Go Party. And friends and I mean, I'm one of the old ladies there, and I'll party on down. But I'll tell you, it's just not fun anymore. And I have to say that from an old lady perspective, obviously. But if it's supposed to be a party for all the classes, I don't think that's quite the way to go, and I would just recommend that we all talk about another kind of, a way of doing a party. But that's a personal thing.
I
So.
think we've actually done both, because we have had our class get together downtown.
Oh, really?
Some years ago. We would have a Friday night cocktail party. I believe we had one at the Gleacher Center when it was new. And it really does work for getting people who are in the downtown area to attend. So, whereas going down to Hyde Park on Friday night is much more of a challenge. You've got to drive, you've got traffic, all of those sorts of things. So I think to some extent it's also a question of what your goal is. If you want people to affiliate, getting the most attendance and sometimes maybe having it downtown isn't a terrible idea. If you're trying to build the U of C campus attraction, different issue. Then you do the on-site dinner at campus. But we've done both, and both have been successful in different ways at different times.
I think that's something we can kind of open up and play with, but there are lots more. Let me just do a few more questions and certainly open it up, and feel free to ask questions anywhere along the line. The gift participation, that at various points, that's something awkward for some committees and easy for others. How difficult was it for your committees to do the ask?
I think one thing that we did that was really helpful is that we were separated into you could do either, but there was very much a development portion and a programming portion. So while we were all involved in everything, there was the opportunity to self-identify and say, I am comfortable making an ask, or I'm not comfortable making an ask. And I think that helped. I also think one thing that I did personally as I was doing outreach was trying to offer people sort of levels of engagement. So the email might say, we have a Young Alumni Challenge, please make a gift. Don't forget to come to reunion. Oh, and Deb is doing a slideshow, send her pictures if you have them. So that even if you felt like, I'm a graduate student and I'm paying student loans, I can't afford to make a gift, I live in Philadelphia, I can't afford to come back, but I do have pictures and I can send them. Like for me, it was very much about finding ways to do that. Every time that I made an ask, there was something else that was a part of it.
And in my case, I did both outreach as well as the ask. My goal in calling people was to connect with them. So the beginning of my call was really talking to them, finding out what they've been doing. If they asked about what I was doing, I could catch them up on it. And as we were kind of winding down and telling them about reunion and when it was going to be and so forth, and then as we were getting to the end of the conversation, then we'd get into, because it's our reunion year, we are collecting for a class gift. And since we have the information about their giving history for 5 years, then asking for some appropriate increase. When I was doing the development calls in the first couple years after graduating, I was very fortunate to have had a somewhat older alum working there. And she said, this script, don't use it. It's too stilted. She said, there's no reason to ask for $500 from somebody who's only been giving $10. Look at what they're giving, double it, triple it, some multiple of what they've been doing, and ask for that. Then if you have to come down, maybe at the worst you're at the same level they were giving below. And I've used that pretty much as a guideline over the years and found it to be extremely effective. Some of the people I spoke to actually, I clearly had asked too low, and they said, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. And then they ended up sending in even more money than what they had agreed to when I spoke with them, which was terrific. But that's been my approach to it over the years, and this year just had a terrific response. I think it was kind of the right amount of time that people have been out, and getting that personal call from somebody, in most cases, that they knew really made a difference.
How do you do that in a large class? I mean, my class only had, say, 400 in its day, and that's graduating all 4 quarters. And by your,
My
it was-
class is in that same range.
Okay.
We're 400-ish.
Yeah, we definitely didn't reach all of our classmates, but I think we also had a big committee, and even though we had about 20 active members, I'm pretty sure that at least 30 or more signed up to reach out to classmates. And so what we do is we send out a spreadsheet and we say pick about 20 people or so or however many, and reach out to them. And so we do have all of the committee basically reaching out to their friends. And because it's such a big committee, we do kind of touch most aspects of the class. I think we get a pretty big group that way. And that works. And I think that having your classmates call you rather than get a call from the development office or from the phone-a-thons, while those work as well, I think the personal touch of having your own classmate call helps a lot.
Yeah, we would always divide up the list, and generally maybe only one person in the committee would say, no, I'm really not comfortable calling to ask for money. And what we always said was, you're not asking for money. You are asking people to attend the reunion and support the reunion. And if they can find it in their hearts to send some money, that would be wonderful. Now, that's the approach of the older classes, because, in fact, there were lots of issues with the older classes. And there was not a clear class identification, because with the older classes, you not only graduated every quarter, but the thing is that I mean, half the people in your class didn't start with your class. And so the people who started in the dorm with you in your first year quite possibly finished 6 years later or 1 year later. So there wasn't that. I always thought there should be an entering class of rather than an ending class of, because that made more sense. But anyway, it is what it is. So our approach was never about the ask. It was always about, please support us in the reunion. And I think people came to appreciate it, so that like every 5th year, I was calling some of the same people. And they said, okay, I can't make it this year because this year kids or this year parents or whatever, but I will send a check and I will support it. And as you roll toward the later reunions, of course, then people start getting sentimental or they get nervous. And truthfully, we're losing more and more classmates. So it's one of the reasons people start showing up, because they don't know that they're going to be around for the next reunion. And so there's always an escalation of interest, even from the people who were previously disaffected or disinterested. But I think the younger classes have more of a tradition of giving, because you're invited to do a class gift before graduation, or encouraged, I shouldn't say invited. And we didn't do, I mean, some classes did class gifts, but I don't think you saw that in the 60s and 70s particularly. So I don't know, did it start in the 80s or the 90s, the class gift, senior class gift? Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Yeah.
Since for a lot of people times are tough, is the university doing everything it can to block off discounted rooms or anything like that, or any approaches for marketing to people who may find it hard in their budget to?
That's really an important question. That is really important, because clearly the economy is in the toilet, and there are some very real issues, not only of paying for reunion, but of coming from out of state for reunion, and then hotel and all the rest. The university subsidizes the dinners so that you don't really pay the full amount of dinners, and you don't pay for the rental of the space on campus if you're doing it on campus. So that's discounting it. That's one second, Earl. And so that's some of it. Now they don't cut it in half. I mean, they just pay some money toward it.
And then they
but-
also do,
and
they have the early bird discount
And
for
they-
early registration, which is nice.
They have the early bird discount for early registration. They also, for people who really book early, there are discounted hotels. The problem is people very often wait, and then by that point, because invariably that's also the weekend of the largest medical conference in Chicago. I mean, it's scary huge. And all these doctors come into town, and all these hotel rooms are booked. And all of a sudden, you've got classmates having to go to Hell and Gone, unless they want the presidential suite at some of the, one of the downtown hotels, so that accommodations become problematic. So if you do the early stuff, then there are some things. And you also, one of the things we tried to do, which is easier with a small class, is get people to offer their homes. So we could say, hey, let us know if you can't stay in a hotel, let us know what your needs are. We will try and place you at one of our classmates' homes. Yeah, Meryl.
Yeah, we've done the same and tried to facilitate arrangements for people out of town to come stay with classmates in town. But a couple of years, we've also specially negotiated rates for a hotel just for our class, and we're the class of 63, and I was bound and determined that the total price was going to be $63 a night and no more. And I talked with the hotel, and I told them why this was a reunion for the class of 63, and while their facilities didn't match many of the other facilities on the list, their location was advantageous, but $63 was our top price to pay to advertise, in which they would not have had otherwise. They bought the deal. And so many people chose to stay there for convenience and for price.
That is brilliant. That's terrific. What a great suggestion. And there are hotels. It depends. Now, the university does its best to hold a certain number of rooms at club quarters and usually one other place downtown. And they also, we've just discovered a new hotel. And because you're here, you're the only ones who are going to find out about it. Just don't use it in my year. There's a new hotel. I just went through it the other day. I actually already gave the names. Alumni House knows about it. And it's called the Chicago South Loop Hotel. It's beautiful. It looks like, they look like condos, actually. It looks like a condo building. It doesn't look like a hotel. It's not in a stunning location. It's 26th and State Street, 2600 South State Street. But let me tell you, it's a very nice location. It's really okay. It's next door to IIT, and amazingly, IIT hasn't booked it for everything, which is just astonishing. They've got a beautiful restaurant. They've got everything. They've just got, it's a full-service hotel because they know their location isn't good. It's not like you can just walk across the street and find a grocery store or a restaurant, and although you can easily find a bus and get right into the loop, and it's not hard, and the L isn't far away. And it was the Chicago South Loop Hotel. I think I may have even brought, I'll check before we're finished. I may have an address with me. And its rates are below $90. You have to kind of bargain a little bit, but my guess is you could probably bargain a good price, or say that you're with the university. And the rooms are beautiful. Plasma TVs. I mean, it's really, and it's new. So something to think about. Anyway, that's.
One other thing that just dawned on me is that some of my classmates often stay at iHouse, which is a very economical alternative.
That books right away, though.
Yep.
That almost never.
And there's going to be less room there this year and in the future because we actually had to put transfer students, international students there, and there's a sorority on campus that now has one part of one floor because they don't have a real house. So the rooms for outsiders is going to be reduced, even a smaller number than it used to be.
There are little-known B&Bs, by the way. There are about 4 B&Bs in the Woodlawn through Kenwood area. And so there, I mean, there are places. One of my classmates, I had been trying to find her for years. She had divorced and you know, kind of disappeared. And I found her about 10 days before reunion, and she was so excited. And by that point, it was impossible to find housing anywhere. And she managed to find a room in the Narragansett, which is a beautiful, beautiful building in Hyde Park. A woman had listed it as a B&B. It wasn't. It's just the woman had a spare room. And so she stayed in the Narragansett. And there's a university bus that comes right by there, so she had free transportation to the university. And that's at 50th and Chicago Beach Drive. So there are things that pop up, but those are odds and ends. What did you do to find lost classmates, or do you not have lost classmates yet?
We have them.
How do you go for them? How do you find them?
We actually had a lost classmates committee member, and she organized that. She put together a list, and we had each member of the committee pick 4 or 5 and reach out to them. So I think we were able to find quite a few lost classmates. We have a lot because since we were 5 years out, we keep moving around, and so most of our contacts not up to date for everyone. But I think that worked well, and I think we're going to try to keep it up.
Yeah, and we have an advantage of we have Facebook, and most people are on Facebook. I mean, Facebook came to the University of Chicago when we were like third years. So from that and LinkedIn, that I think is very helpful because you can find someone and you can send them a message and you can at least determine, okay, well, they're in the same city as they used to be, and try to give alumni relations some sort of guidance as they're trying to look for people. So I think that was really also.
How do you do long distance stuff? I mean, is it all electronic, or do you have like satellite committees where they get together somewhere else?
We did all our calls. We have phone calls, and everything else is just email.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know it's a small number of folks, but I assume you either have participated in reunions or will be working on reunion. Do you have any other questions about upcoming reunions, or? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on the go. And on the go party. And I really think it needs to seriously be looked at. Our class in the past has developed 2 parties. We've had the dinner, and then we've gone to somebody's home, or we've done a variety of things. I think the Go Party serves a very good purpose for people who come who are unaffiliated with the class, and it's a way of bringing people together. But if anybody really pays close attention, at times the music is too loud, and as soon as that revs up, there's a certain group that leaves and a certain group that stays. And I think
It also opens up to graduating seniors for the last hour and a half, so that it pretty quickly it's not about alums.
The whole thing changes.
Yeah.
And which was a little different from when they had the open tent on campus, which was a little more inclusive and holding on to people than the one in Ratner. And I think that has to carefully be looked at, because unless the university is happy having everybody who's over a certain age or at a certain class reunion break leave, and that's the intent, then I think that needs to be adjusted, because I think for a lot of those people, they're not ready to end. They still want to talk, but the problem is at the go, you can't talk. The table setups, the noise, and what people want to do is converse. So whether Ratner thinks about how to divide it up in sections so you can sort of move out, and it's great to meet people from other years and all that, but at that party, it falls apart. So I hope truly that by the time our next one comes around, that problem will be resolved with a better outcome than is present.
I'm in 100% agreement with that. Five of us sat outside in the rain trying to have a conversation because we couldn't even stand in the foyer.
And to say nothing
Yeah.
that it doesn't relate to most of the older, that place has no relationship.
Right.
There was an attempt at decorating it like a library and all, so one would sort of feel a little more comfortable, but it was cold and meaningless.
Yeah, the tent was better.
I just wanted to add that for me, since I've been working at the university in the advising office since '81, I like to go around at that event and see my former advisees and my former orientation aides, and then I have to leave them because I can't stand the noise and I can't have a real conversation without shouting and my voice goes. I think people do get too drunk, and it is unpleasant for people my age. I'm class of '66. So I would like to have I know they want us to think of ourselves as one big university, but
Not so.
that is not a comfortable space for people our age.
I agree totally. Marilyn, and why don't we hear from the young alums about what, yeah.
It's divided up a little bit. Besides, I think you'll hit people's comfort level more and be able to play to what their special needs are. People like to see other years that come back, and other years are more or less right around their time. So if you kind of clump it and break it off, I think smaller kind of is better. I know the university loves these large events to say, 59 million came. But in terms of the attendee, they can't relate to 59 million. Relating to 100 is hard enough. And so I really do think some serious thought has to be given.
How does it feel? I mean, you're on the spot now.
I love the Go Party.
Of course. I would too, if I were in my 20s.
Well, see, I actually didn't go. And that's just because I'm coming back to Chicago, right? Like, I'm not always in Chicago. So when I'm in Chicago, I want to see the U of C, of course, but I want to do other things. So my husband and I went to dinner or something. Like, it was his birthday celebration. But one thing I think is really good about it is the graduating student aspect, because it's critical. I mean, they talked about it. Laura talked about it. It's critical that students feel like they are becoming a part of the alumni community. And if that's an opportunity for them to feel as though they're coming in. Now, obviously, it's problematic if not everyone is there, but at the same time, it's sort of meeting them and meeting their need, and I think that's a really important piece of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I went to the Go Party as a senior, and one of my really good friends who's also on the committee, she was a Howe Murray, and her parents weren't in town because that was a week before graduation, so she invited myself and our other roommate, and so we did the entire thing from the awards ceremony in the morning, and then we went to the alumni convocation, and then we went to the alumni picnic because they do that for all of the medalists. And we go back and we do all those things every year. The two of us, we will sleep for 3 hours from Friday to Saturday in order to make it to the alumni convocation because we did it our senior year. And we go to the picnic, and I think, again, we're one of the few people in the younger classes that go to the picnic in the afternoon. But I think we want to come back because we did it our senior year, and we've done it every year since. And I think that the Go Party is a great way to get the seniors engaged and involved.
And you're creating a tradition, yeah. Well, that makes total sense. And I think at some point, and this isn't the place we're going to resolve it, but I think this is clearly a conversation that needs to be had with the younger classes and the older classes and staff to see what's what. And yes, please.
Yeah, so if there's a way to make it like two parties in one, to have it, I don't know if they could have it side by side, if they have a shuttle bus between the two, to allow people to have both options, that would be great to have one with quiet music, guitar or something, classical guitar or something like that, and one with, as it is pretty much now.
Yeah, have it. You could still have a place on the I can't see it, Meryl.
The sign says G-O and the number 2. So maybe by the time
I like
for
that.
63 or the time for 62,
Yeah.
we can have a go-to party.
I love it.
Interpret it any way you want, and there it is, in the different kind of ways. It's what's going to happen happened in the class.
It's a great idea.
Where it wants to go.
It's a great idea. Well, what my class and I did, and this was for our 45th reunion 3 years ago, we decided, I would have gone to the Go Party, but nobody else wanted to do that. So I planned an independent dinner. We went downtown. Well, we didn't go down. We went actually to the Italian neighborhood, and we got about 25, 30 people together, and we got the back room of one of the restaurants, and we just kept the party going, and that was after a very long day. And we'd broken it up into about 6 cars, so we were able to get most people accommodated, or even more cars, I don't remember. And then those people who wanted to keep going afterward, because I'm basically a night person, my apartment was open. So, and I've done that for every reunion we've had. And people just, they come by afterward. I just tell them they've got to be out by about, midnight or 1 or 2 or something, so that I can start sleeping and to get up the next day. And more, we were trying to really do a 3 to 4 day reunion, not a 2-day reunion. Of course, that gets easier when people are retired. Obviously, when you're younger, you have kids, you've got jobs, you've got other responsibilities. You don't have that kind of latitude. Jean and Meryl.
For the last couple of reunions, and we'll do it again next June, one of our Hyde Park committee members has opened her house for a Sunday morning brunch.
Yeah, we did that also, yeah.
And part of the motivation for starting that was that we felt there wasn't enough time to talk. When you have this big party that you can't talk at, and you have the formal dinner where you're only seated with the 5 or 8 people that you're seated with, you need a more informal setting where you can get up and sit with this group and this group and this group, and really talk intimately with people that you missed at the dinner and at the Go Party and such. And it was great. And I think that from a programming standpoint, maybe this is because as we get older, as you mentioned, we're becoming more nostalgic, but there doesn't have to be as much programming. We really want to talk to each other and catch up and share ideas about, as some people are fortunate enough to go into retirement, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really different from the young years, although I can't imagine that the young people don't want to talk about what they've done so far, where they're going, what their families are like. I just think that every minute of the whole 2-day event doesn't have to be programmed.
Let me toss in one thing that you may want to consider for a reunion. We were looking for ways to do that, and one of our committee members said, let's host like an hour and a half kind of whip around at Jimmy's. And we went to the back, we arranged to have the back room at Jimmy's, like 5 o'clock or something on Saturday afternoon, or we had it somewhere. And people just bought some pitchers of their nasty beer, but it was like, and your feet stuck to the floor, and it was just like being back home. And people just sat around. Each person had 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to distill something that he or she wanted to share with the group. So we had like 20 of these, and then afterward, everybody just, oh, wow, tell me more about that. I mean, it was such a nice thing. At first I thought, oh, please, how can you do this in 2 minutes? Everyone loved it. It was so successful. So we've done a lot of those kinds of things. Yeah.
We went to Bleacher one Friday night. Things keep changing of what's dinner and what isn't.
Yeah.
This was not a dinner night. And we asked people in advance if there were things they wanted to talk about and share and bring slides on, or whatever they wanted to do, whether it was about going to Alaska or sailing around the world or reading a book, whatever was important to them at that point. And so some people came prepared to talk with slides and everything and did, some people with music, and we went around the room. And it was fascinating what happened in time creating the entire program. But what I wanted to suggest is that people really think outside the box, outside of the regular plan that the university lays out. We're very fortunate that the university gives some structure so that those groups who aren't terribly involved in the beginning have something to relate to, and it's easy. But the more personal you can make for your class, the better. And I wanted to give you some examples of our class, which the university has now taken up as theirs, okay? We had t-shirts. We had a web page before the university ever did, and for our class, and we really pushed it out a lot, and they do it. We had tours of the neighborhood and an update of the neighborhood, which the following year the university took on and made it theirs. We had class programs that they hadn't done that we sponsored, and we did a concert, we did a lecture. The university then gave the opportunity to have class programs if classes wanted to do it. We made a CD of a concert that we were doing. We opened it up to everybody, and we also made a videotape. There are a lot of things that if we all put our heads together, what works right for our class can well be an example that works right for everybody, and therefore enhance reunion as a whole. So I would really urge people to, whatever you're told on how things generally go, to think differently also, and to see how that can expand things for the benefit of all later on, besides you joining the class at the time.
And I think for young alumni, that is particularly a challenge, because just sort of, if you think about, like you're saying, you don't see people and you need a minute to get back. We are all friends on Facebook. We're online. We know, like, I know when Deb is taking finals because I see it. I know what my friends are doing. And so it actually is sort of a challenge in the alumni relations industry then, is how do you get people to come back when they already know? They know if you're married. They know if you have kids. They know when your kid is sleeping through the night. Like, a lot of things that they don't want to know. And so I think that is a real challenge, is to figure out what's the value add if you already know what your friends are doing.
That seems kind of simple to me, because then what you're coming back to is what you came for originally.
Exactly, but it's figuring it out.
How to make the college yours today as versus when it was 5 years ago, whatever. So if you're saying everything else is there, though I think face-to-face is still different than Facebook,
yes.
But then you're able to call on the resources for the university to do that, if that's what your class decides is missing and why.
Yeah. And so, but it really is. I mean, it's a challenge. Like, I work in alumni relations, so as you talk to people, that's what you hear with younger classes. It's hard sometimes to get them to. They can't afford it, and they know what their friends are doing. So it's figuring out ways, I think, like what you're saying, what your class needs and what your class wants, and going with that, and recognizing that, it's going to be different. 5 years, we're going to have a totally different need than we did this past year, and things like that.
One of the things I've always fantasized that this university would do for a reunion is for those people who cannot come, and there are, I mean, not everybody is coming home, that there's no reason why the Common Core can't be taped and sent out to people as part of reunion. And whether you say, look, for $10 or $5 or $25, experience and see your classmates, hear some of the conversations, take what they are at dinner, take what's happening, and make that available.
Yeah, and we actually did that with some, and Deb did a great slideshow of our class. I thought I did, so maybe? I think so. But it was an idea, if we might have done it, fingers crossed, was to share that with people.
Yeah, and the academic reports are now taped, so they're online after the meeting, so everyone can take a view. I hate to stop everyone now. Just to remind you, we have a lunch round table,
yes.
so if anyone is going to grab their lunch at 11:30, we do have a round table.
And I would just like to close by adding one line about the staff. The staff are terrific in supporting the alumni and the reunion events. And as Deb said, no matter how aggressive and competent and accomplished many of our committees may be, we can't do it without staff. And And so I say use them, but don't abuse them. And then, since Stacy is going to be my staffer for my reunion. And I thank you all for coming, and thank the panel. And I wish you all many happy reunions, and enjoy the rest of the day.